Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is Apple Black Volume 1 by Odunze Oguguo. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. But most people know him on YouTube and the internet as Whyt Manga. If you've never watched a video from Whyt Manga's channel, I do recommend it. He does a lot of really cool and interesting videos about doing manga-style comics over, I think he is in America. I'm not sure. I know he is, let's see, let's get into this guy right here. Whoopsie. He is Nigerian born, but I do believe he lives in America. Or at the very least, he went to school in the United States. So anyhow, Apple Black was recommended me by a commenter, and I have actually seen this, and I've definitely watched videos from Whyt Manga. I do like his YouTube channel a lot. And this was kind of interesting. I'm going to review just the first chapter, because this is a pretty long volume. Actually really impressed by this. Pretty good production value, though I will say I can tell that this is at least some form of a print-on-demand product, just because of this made in May 2021. I think if you buy this off Amazon, I think basically there's a factory somewhere in Vegas that just prints it out as they need to print it out. Not that that's a bad thing. I think for black and white right here, I think print on demand's probably fine. I do like the price point right here for the number of pages, and there's a lot. This is definitely competitive with any manga type volume. This is $12.99. This is a very good price point for this kind of book. Also, interestingly enough, as you can tell, this reads in the Western style, left to right, top to bottom, left to right. Rather than say here's Bleach, right to left, which is Japanese. You'll also note that the aspect ratio is a little bit different. This book, I can tell, it's hard to tell right here in the camera. I hope you can take it. It is apparently printed in a different aspect ratio. I'm not sure if Whyt Manga drew this on different paper size than manga. Because I do know American comics and Japanese manga, they use different paper sizes for traditional art creation. Obviously, if you do it digitally, then it kind of doesn't matter. Well, a little bit depends on your resolution, right? But anyhow, I've blabbed enough about this. Let's jump into this guy. So the first thing I want to note about Apple Black is that if you just jump right into the sequential art section of it, you can get a little confused. And the reason being is that Whyt Manga kind of does a bit of an intro sort of page right here. And to not to start off on the wrong foot here, to critique this is a bit of an exposition dump. And while it is fascinating and it is very imaginative and very creative, he's really going deep into his world right here with this opening several paragraphs in his page. It's a bit ham-fisted to start the book off this way, and at times, like for me, I kind of like glanced at this and sort of jumped past it when I first read it and just jumped into the book. Then I immediately got confused, kind of got done with the first chapter, and then kind of went back and reread from all of this. It made a little more sense when I read this thing. Same thing, like this is actually really interesting in the match. It really reminds me of like the maps in Naruto. The unfortunate part about it is that it's a little too early to be doing this, at least in my opinion. I think this would have been better served as just a panel within the manga itself, like say in a chapter where you're kind of letting the reader get to know a little bit more about the world of Eden right here. But to kind of jump into this really quickly, essentially the world of Apple Black is a world in which basically a magical tree has bestowed a fruit called Black to humanity. Humans that eat it gain magical powers, though that tree and those fruits have long disappeared. That magical ability is passed on through generations, yada yada yada. I actually think through, like, even though I like the narration boxes right here, they do a pretty good job. I think it would have been cooler to actually illustrate this tree and these fruits and all this other stuff. I think the imagery, the writing right here has such an interesting image that it presents to your mind. You almost feel like it would have been cool to draw it. But again, this all works right here. The world is very much, obviously, Japanese influence. This is essentially a comic book influenced by manga. and you can see a lot of the influence right here with Japanese. And again, there's certain things aren't kind of explained. This is like this ends up being a dream sequence, so you have that time to wake up, and then here's the main character. And so the main character is this guy Sano. He is the Trinity. He was kind of destined to be sort of the hero of Eden in a way. And here again, I have a bit of a critique, and that is, I gotta jump through this because this is a lot of pages right here. You get to meet his friend here, Angelo, and then his monkey, Whyt, right here, which kind of provides some comedic relief. There's a lot of definitely manga tropes going on here. This main character I found very difficult to get into. And the reason why I found difficult to get into is a lot of his background and his motivations aren't really well explained. And so a lot of times, you know, even though I think Whyt Manga does an admirable job, you know, trying to have some laughs with the character and kind of poke at him and kind of make him feel a little more human, he ends up coming off as sort of an overpowered character through this first chapter. And a bit of a stark contrast to other shonen manga protagonists, which I think is what Whyt Manga was trying to go for here. This has very much the feeling of a shonen manga, and I think for the most part, I will absolutely applaud the artwork. I think Whyt Manga did a great job really capturing that Japanese manga style. All of this really reminds me of, and I brought this out for a reason too. His art really reminds me of Tite Kubo and Bleach. And maybe there's other influences too, possibly a little bit of Kishimoto and Naruto and some other stuff. But really the world, the setting, especially a lot of the white stone architecture and some of his shots and everything, and some of the ways he draws human faces and whatnot, really reminds me of Tite Kubo. So you get to meet. So he heads off to go to sorcery school to get trained up, and you meet his teacher right here, who's kind of this gruff and rough sort of hard-boiled kind of character trope that you tend to see in manga, always smoking and everything. And I think again, this is probably the one weakness of this book is it's kind of moving fast, which normally I like, but it's not doing a very good job of explaining the characters around here, right? So I know it's ham-fisted, but a lot of times when you have these kind of situations, I think a lot of people don't want to just introduce a character and kind of tell you like this is this character and this is his motivation and whatnot, because it feels too mechanical or too formulaic. But sometimes I would rather prefer that than to be kind of thrown in the dark and having to figure out characters as I go along, especially when they get introduced at this click right here. So you just had, several characters introduced, 4 or 5 pages ago. You have this villain guy and these two guys introduced, 2 pages ago. Then you have the teacher introduced a couple pages ago. Then you have these two characters, this guy right here who randomly decides to start a fight with Sano. And then, this other character right here who's kind of, sort of, again, a trope of the character reading a dirty book, but also kind of like, I know what Whyt Manga was probably trying to go with this character, but again, it feels almost too unexplained when you're going through this book. Overall, you can tell that Whyt Odunze truly loves shonen manga, because you can feel it everywhere throughout this book. A lot of the things that you tend to see in like Bleach, Naruto, etc., right? And it's also excellent effort and hard work on all of the panels right here. He's definitely putting some freaking blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I enjoy it. I think, unfortunately, I think it needed probably a few more editors, or maybe some kind of, back and forth with maybe a story editor here, because there's a lot of things where you feel that Whyt knows the character in his mind, he knows the story, but he's not necessarily communicating it well to you, the reader. There's a lot of times I kind of have to infer, and because I've read so many manga, I know where the writer's kind of going with these characters, but at the same time, it's not coming across in the book, so you kind of are little confused at times here. So he gets into a fight, and then the teacher chews his ass out for getting into a fight, even though he didn't start that fight. You also had a really weird scenario right here where Sano kind of explains that, oh, I knew that guy was going to punch me, but I didn't get in the way because I'm like, you know, better than him or something. Really didn't make this character very endearing. You know, oh, I love this. This is like, I don't know if he used computer animation to help aid him in doing this. If he didn't, fucking props, because this looks awesome. I almost wish this was a saddle-stitched book, because you could have seen like all this. That's like the one sadness when you pick up mangas that have these great double-page spreads, is that you'll never really see the art in its true beauty, because you'll always have this damn perfect bound crease in the middle. Oh man, I think it would be really cool to see manga reprinted as saddle stitching, but probably never going to happen, honestly. But yeah, anyway, we get into it. You get a lot of classroom stuff. Again, more characters just introduced very rapidly. Yeah, this character kind of comes out of left field, and you get some background information that's a little bit cryptic and ominous, and it's kind of hard to, again, figure out what's going on right here. And then you get this scene actually really confused me, because it's kind of a little bit introducing like the way I guess the rebels in this world work, and sort of the bounty system and whatnot. And I guess it is a bit of a manga trope to kind of exposition dump through dialogue, but it's a little too ham-fisted here, especially for an opening chapter. I feel like, you know, essentially the central story of this book is Sano leaving his house, going to school to become a full-trained wizard, and, you know, learn about his powers as the Trinity, right, his hero powers, and really facing this baddie right here, who is trying to raid God, like, it's almost like a safe with some stuff in it, magical stuff that he wants to get right here. And really, that's kind of the essence of this this plot right here. Everything else is kind of almost like jammed in a little too hard, and I think the first chapter would have been a lot better if he just would have focused on just one simple plot line, and sort of work all of his characters more in depth and more explained if he would have done that. But again, you know, art is like, this is, yeah, fantastic. Speed lines everywhere. This is manga art right here. I like this. I love the jagginess. Like, I love how in manga they have these jaggedy balloons. I know it's not popular in American comics, but I think American comics should start using this more often. I just think it looks really cool. But yeah, so here's his arm, the Trinity and everything. I will say this, you know, again, kind of going back to this character being a little too overpowered in his opening. He doesn't really struggle at all. He gets embarrassed by a few things, and then one guy punches him, but then he says later on, well, I let him punch me, so nah, 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 nah. And then, you know, he basically absolutely nukes this bad guy who, you know, destroyed a bunch of other dudes earlier in the book. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that approach. I think this would have been a lot better if Sano kind of, like, early in the book, or the middle of this chapter, I should say, he got his ass kicked, and then he kind of, like, turned it around, or discovered something about himself, and then overcame the baddie at the end. I think that would have made him much more endearing in this first chapter. Again, though, I will say I'm just looking at this chapter on its own and not the book as an entirety. So again, don't take this as a judgment of the entire volume. I'm just looking at this chapter as an end. But yeah, no, we get to the end, and he gets his little moment. I'm gonna forgive to set us all free, you know, etc., etc. You know, you get some stuff with the other two students that he ran into earlier, and then you jump into the second chapter, and you get more characters added into. So yeah, again, I know I'm not going through the whole volume, but this is a freaking huge book, and I don't like to make super long videos. So I probably will go over the rest of the book later, just to be fair to it. But overall, I like the art. Story, I think, needs a little bit of work for the first chapter, I should say. You can absolutely tell that Odunze truly does love the shonen manga genre, and that this comic book has a lot of work put into it. Like, you can't deny, you gotta put many, many, many hours into doing this much artwork, even if it is just black and white, right? I think that's something that a lot of American comic book creators don't understand about manga, is that just because it's not in color doesn't mean there's not a shitload of work that goes into it. And I think even for, I'm almost curious if he drew this on American-sized paper, because in American comics you go, it's 10 by 15 is the drawing area on a, is it 10 by 15? Yeah, 10 by 15 on an 11 by 17 piece of Bristol paper, right? And I think manga or mangakas, they go a lot smaller, and then they're in centimeters. I think they're like almost about like 30 to 40% less paper space on their pages. So if you think about it, the amount of time it takes for them to fill out and draw a page is technically less than American artists, but you know, obviously in manga they draw a lot more pages overall, I would say, than an American comic book artist. So yeah, I mean, I liked it. You know, do I like it as much as, like, you know, more of the classics? I would say no, but then again, I don't necessarily think that's a fair comparison. You know, obviously, you know, Whyt manga is, I think this is truly a passion project, even though he is educated in art. And I think, I'm not sure if this is the first thing he ever did, or if this is like the first professional thing he ever did. But regardless of either it was the first thing he ever created as far as like a comic book series, or his first professional endeavor as a comic book series, this is very, very impressive. And, you know, even though, you know, I wasn't super into the story, I really did appreciate this book, and, you know, appreciated the recommendation. Anyhow, let's get to the art. So, I was kind of messing with this, so I tried to look at his, what scene was I looking at right here? Because he kind of hides his arm for most of this, this chapter, so that he doesn't kind of reveal that he is the Trinity, you know, right here. So I kind of took this page as sort of a inspiration for this piece of art right here. And kind of cheated with the leg down here. I know, you know, his leg's kind of disappearing off the page and everything. When I was penciling it up, I was like, oh crap, I don't know what to do here. I'll just kind of run it through. Again, I was kind of messing with different colors and whatnot. I think if I could do it again, I would have just chosen a darker color palette for his sectional right here, for his robe or his shirt or his thingamabobber. I'm kind of happy the way I kind of draw sort of the manga face right here. You know, it's pretty okay for the most part. I think I could do a little better on detailing it, and probably doing a little bit better on the eyes right here. I think I like the way of using grays on white. I like doing that with my Copics. That was a lot of fun. But I'm not happy with how I did the blues. Again, I actually don't know what color this is, because the only colored pieces are, you know, top shots of Sano. So I don't actually know if his boot is actually colored blue or not. I just kind of guessed, or I made it to match his top right here. Again, though, I should have probably went with a darker color if I'm looking back on this. So overall, it's okay. Again, not a very good artist, so I'll kind of take each one and try to learn from it as I get forward. Anyhow, that's the video. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments about Apple Black, Chapter 1, I should say, or my art, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.